everybody. Welcome to our meetup number 17 or 0x11. Today we have a wonderful program again. We have Shiraz, who was with us a couple of meetups back. He will be doing his own machine, Love, and we'll talk about it for a little while. Um, it will have some very nice stuff to talk about. So let's grab Shiraz and let's get the party started. Hey Shiraz, welcome.
Hi everyone. I am Shiraz. I am a content engineer at Hack the Box, and we are going to solve a box that I made a few months back, which is called Love, and I hope you like it. And we'll also do some extra stuff after that.
Yeah, wonderful. I'm sure everybody will like it. So let's jump right in. If you can share your screen, I will put it up on the screen on
Yes.
the video feed.
Um, Sharing my screen.
So while Shiraz is doing getting the screen ready,
Can you see my screen?
not yet, not yet.
You can.
No, the preparation falls into the water, as they say it in Dutch. If you do the share tray, you can do a share screen, select one, and then click share. Uh-oh. The best laid plans, people, and it's always the case. Well, while Shiraz is doing this, probably had to give permission to his browser to actually do this. While Shiraz is doing this, the machine that we're doing is Love. It's also available, I was just told, on the free tier on Hack the Box itself. So we'll wait for Shiraz to come back. Yeah, there he is.
Hey.
So there you are.
Yeah, I had to restart my browser to share this.
To give it permissions, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Now I have it.
See,
Hi.
there we have it. There we have it. So while you are talking, you can ask questions. You can ask. People will put the comments in. While they do it, I will put them on screen if it's relevant.
Okay, you'll probably have to read it because I can't really see the screen.
Okay, no,
That's
I
because
will
I'm
say it
sharing
as
the screen.
well. Yeah, I will chime in. So yeah,
Yeah.
go
Okay.
ahead.
So this was my first box, and I don't know why Clear is not working. Well, here we are. The IP address is probably around here. This is the IP address of the box. It was a Windows machine. For those who don't know, it was my first machine, and I was super anxious about if people will like it, but it was a great hit, luckily. But yeah, so I should be able to ping it. Um, Let me try here. Can I? Yeah, it works. So this is the IP address of the box, and generally I just like to ask you guys that what should I do with the IP address? Um, I don't think you can
If
do
you,
that here, right?
yeah, let's ask the chat. We can test if the chat works. So if you have some suggestions as to what Shiraz should do at this machine, throw it into the chat, and we'll give it a try.
Also let me know if my screen and the terminal is like completely visible.
Yeah, yeah. What you just increased it, and now it's very legible. So yeah.
So I would just start with the nmap scan because it might take a little bit. So I will just start it
Yeah.
and I will go. So nmap in nmap SC is for service scan. SV is for service scan, and SC is for scripts. And I will also add OA for it to save the output in all formats. We call that love, and we let it go.
Yeah,
And
in the
hopefully,
chat, Nmap was the first thing as well, together with ping, Nmap, and Renee says maybe browse it as well.
okay. There's this one more tool that I recently discovered, and it's called Rust Scan. I don't know if you guys have seen it.
Yeah, it's the re-implementation of Nmap in Rust, I believe, right?
Yeah, but it's like super fast. Nmap is still going on, just so we say, but this completes the scan in like couple of seconds if it opens.
Yeah,
Hopefully, it'll open.
there's some other suggestions in the chat as well. Ronnie says, "What about GoBuster?" Um, Richard van S says, "Well, look at the website source for DevTools and run GoBuster." And
Okay, but if we see right now, okay, there's something bad. I don't know what I did there. Maybe I messed up the flags. Let's see.
that
And
doesn't
map
look
didn't
like
work.
it. I think
Yeah.
it's just as successful as your ping earlier.
Oh, yeah. So we have the files here. If we just take a look at love.nmap,
Yeah.
so it
Maybe you can
did
increase
created
the
those
font
files.
a little bit so we can read
Yeah.
it.
So if we take a look at nmap, we see we have a few ports open. Port 80 is open on Apache's almost latest version, and PHP 7.3.27 is also available. OpenSSL is installed, like as we expect. Interesting thing over here is that it is running Windows 64-bit of version of Windows. And if we move ahead down there, we see that HTTP title says that we have Microsoft. Sorry, we have a voting system using PHP. I don't know what that is. Like I know because I made the box, but ideally I wouldn't know what that is. So we'll go ahead and search it. We also know that HTTP server is running, so there must be a website, and that's why we have HTTP title. Other than that, we have normal Windows ports available, which are not all that interesting. 443 says forbidden 403. So maybe there is something else that is running in the same website. And there's a it revealed a subdomain called staging.love.htp and organization name Valentine Corp. There is SMB that's open and MySQL is open. It shows that it is running Java RMI, but probably not. And then there is this thing, which is which is another HTTP server running on port 5000. After that, it also says forbidden. So maybe let's go and see how this works. Or let's just finish up this first. So the computer name is Love, and NetBuyer's name is also Love. Message signing is enabled but not required. So if we had multiple hosts up here and we could relay some hashes, then we would try and relay hashes and try doing relay attacks. But as you see that it is just a single box, so we can probably not do that. Like it will be useless.
Yeah.
So
There's some interesting comments in the chat at the moment. So Ronnie says, "Hey, Win64, does this have an NSIE CSS clipping bug?" And Renee says, hey, it's staging. So it might show extra things in the HTML code. Going
Yeah.
from a perspective of a development, staging, production type cycle.
Yes. Yeah. So if you just try going to the IP address, it just shows this blank page, and the title says votingsystem.php, and the machine say like the page itself says votingsystem.php, and we can try stuff out. We can try admin just for the sake of it, and doesn't work really because it says we don't have a find a voter ID that works. We cannot find it. I was showing this another tool, and I will in a second. Let's take a look at that. We will also let's take a look at love.htb because staging.love.htb is a thing, so love.htb should also be a thing, and that's what I'm going to do right now. We're going to go edit our Etsy host.
There we go.
Uh,
I think you have a lot of machines in there. There it is.
yeah. So we have it here. Okay. We added both of these. I don't wanted to show you that, but well,
At this time, we don't know that there is a www.love.htb, right?
actually Nmap reveals that. So that's why we have it there. I think that's okay. Yeah. So www.love.htv and staging.htv are the two of them. And if we
Well,
try catching
where
some,
does Nmap reveal that?
let me show you. I think it should be there.
Oh,
Yeah, at the
no.
moment we don't know it yet. But
Uh,
if you look at the SSL certificate, we'll probably find that out somewhere.
yeah, yeah. It only says it there in the output because you already
Yeah,
have it in your host file.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a spoiler. Okay, both of them work basically, but because it is running a XAMPP server, and XAMPP server generally already have a www dot subdomain, so it will just point to the main host. That's why it works. So if we try to go to staging.love.htb, uh, yeah, okay, we have a different site here, and if we try going to love.htb, we get redirected to www.love.htb. That's why I
Okay.
have it in my host file.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So the extra step that we now miss is that we would have gone to love.htb and then we would
yeah,
be redirected. We know this host name and we would have also added it to the host file.
yeah. And then so the IP address is just pointing to the main IP address, and love.htb is the same site. And then there is this free file, secure file scanner or free file scanner on staging.love.htb. Um, When I see a site like this, what would you do? What would be your first guess to doing to any of these? I'm kind of stuck here.
Yeah, let's see. There are some comments in the chat. Richard is saying, "Hey, seems like a GoBuster locks me out." So apparently there's some rate limiting going on. Um, Ronnie
Let's.
says, "When I did it, it went fine." So that's
The word list is.
let's see. Jennifer says, "What do you do if you don't have an etc. host?" Well, everybody has an etc. host. Perhaps you need to add a slash before the etc. Because all Kali Linux environments will have an etc. host file, because else there's no way to resolve host names. Um, let's see.
Weird.
There's some other things. Oh, there.
Yes.
Tries you did HTTPS instead of HTTP.
I tried both.
Oh,
No, that's weird.
the lookup fails 8844.
Yeah. Let's see.
So it tries to resolve the hostname. That's weird.
Yeah. Maybe it's commented out. Maybe it's just commented out, or
Yeah, that could be. I saw some comments in your.
yeah.
Yeah, you did here. The line says the love.htb is commented out.
Yeah. So maybe we should just try www.love.htb because that line is not commented out.
Sure. Sure. Uh,
Yeah.
let's see.
So we will let it run and we'll continue with our enumeration here.
yeah,
So
let's deal with some questions in the chat.
yes.
Yeah, Ronnie says it's not true. It's only part of resolving. That's very true. But resolving HTTP host names is only able through your own host file, and every Linux or Kali Linux will have a host file. Um, but people create a text file and etc. host content is yeah, IP space. Yeah, true. Um, Spectrum Cat
Um,
asks, "Hey, where can I get a word list?" So maybe we can talk about that. Richard also
so
gives an answer here. But is there
word
a word
list.
list that you prefer?
I just usually use Seclist. So even last time I showed this, there is a project called Seclist that is owned by I think Gottman, and Seclist have a lot of different word lists. For generally HTTP, I just use this one. It's user share word list, GoBuster, directory list 2.3 medium or 2.3. I sometimes use the big one, but I generally use 2.3 medium. This is the project called Seclist, and it have a lot of different word lists for in number of things. We can use the discovery one as well. I think Raft would have. There is a list called Raft, which have subdomains in it. We'll probably find staging and other things there as well. I'll put this in chat. Um, I don't think I can put it in chat. Okay.
There you go. Well,
Yeah. So GoBuster is still running at the back of it. What else did people suggested, Manuel?
let's see. We had an entire discussion about the etc. host. To clarify, you need to add the entry yourself. Shiraz already had it in his etc. file because he was quite active in his Kali. But by default, it will only have one or two lines denoting what would be localhost and all the other things you need to add yourself.
Yeah.
Let's see. Richard says, "Hey, we should intercept the login form using burp, so
Yeah,
we can
let's try
see
and do that.
what goes on there."
Yeah, let's try and do that. I'm gonna put it here. I am using Foxy Proxy if you don't know about this. I think I showed this in our last meetup, but
I think so as well. Yeah.
still using that.
Yeah, and Renee makes a good comment. There was some discussion on the chat. Spectrum Cat says, "Well, I'm running my Mac, so I don't have the word list." Renee remarks, "Hey, it's always a good advice to uh, use a virtual machine." There's some discussion or there are opinions on this topic. We had Ian Austin on our meetups a while back, and he said, "Well, you can actually use anything as long as you don't expose anything on the VPN." I myself don't really agree with that, in the sense that the thing that we're doing is running exploits on a machine to another machine, and not
Oh,
all exploits are very very nice. Some are also made to kick you in the butt, and you can do actual damage to your machine. So always use a virtual machine, just to be safe.
okay. So I have another thing. I have a story to tell maybe about this.
Yeah,
So a while back, we released a machine called, I think it was called, um, well, I forgot the name because we release quite a lot of machines. So I test them all the time. But after we released it, after a few days, after we released the machine, someone solved it. After that, we got a message from someone from our community saying, "Hey, this machine had this binary on it, and when I ran it on my host, it deleted everything in my downloads folder."
yeah. Well,
Now,
only in the downloads folder. Oh, that's okay. That's
yeah, yeah, that's what we thought that it was in first place that was a bad idea trying to run something that is obviously like it is in a CTF and it is something that you would use to privilege escalate and try reversing it to understand what it does, but to actually blindly running anything on your own host that you can't really afford to lose files where
yeah.
it's just almost stupid. Like you are lucky that it only deleted your host download folder. It could have
Yeah.
just completely destroyed your computer.
Yeah,
Uh, so
I have a story about that. When I was prepping for my OCP, I ran into a machine which, well, it was hard, and it was late, and I ran out of ideas, so I started googling all the ports, and one of the ports was RDP, of course. And
yeah.
given the information on that machine, the first result in Google was an exploit on pastebin, and I think it's actually a spear phishing type uh, entry, because it had some machine code in it. So, and it said, well, do this and you get remote access. And well, I was tired, and did not have time, or did not feel like looking
Hmm.
at the code. So I just tried it, and my machine started humming, and then my virtual machine was fully wiped out. Later, when I actually looked at the code, there was a rm minus rf slash embedded in the machine code. So yeah, that was. You never do stuff like that on your own machine. It's bad.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah.
Um,
Also keep like regular snapshots of
yeah.
your attacking box if you are really concerned about losing your tools. Then just make a lot of snapshots because
Snapshots, and ensure
yeah.
that you don't have shared folders when you do stuff you don't like cannot recover from.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, because maybe then you just have a folder on your host, and there you go. Now
yeah,
you have deleted your everything. So,
I had one student that had a shared folder with their virtual machine folder. So the virtual machine was actually inside a shared folder on the virtual machine. And when she tried to clean up part of her environment, she removed a mapping, which actually removed everything on her shared folder, which included the machine itself. So VMware crashed, and that was the end of it. Right? But anyway, back to some suggestions.
yeah,
Richard also has a suggestion, maybe FIF for the voter ID, uh, maybe SQL injections. Um, So there's ideas that the login form might be quite something.
Okay, then GoBuster is still going, and meanwhile I'm trying to intercept this request. So I put an admin here, selected burp from my Foxy proxy. If you don't know how to basically configure Foxy proxy, I think I have a video somewhere. I'll post it later. IPSec also have shown it like 100 times in his videos, so maybe you can check that out.
Interesting.
After that, so so we have it here. I'll put it in repeater tab and I'll try some SQL injection payloads. Let's see, we'll start fuzzing here. Generally, what I sometimes do is I send it to intruder, but this is not the paid version of GoBuster, so you can probably no, Burp, so you can probably go and do it with WFuzz or something. But I usually use Burp. So here we are. Let's. I think that voter's username might be vulnerable to it, so I'll just put these markers here. So this is where my payload would go. I'll go to payloads, and then I will go to somewhere on checklist, special characters. Yeah. So checklist have a word list with all the special characters. We'll just copy all of them and see how it. We'll just fuzz it and see how it goes. Probably won't work, but here we go. Start attack. It will take a while. It will send 32 requests. So it should start by now. Yeah. So intruder attack has started and we'll check the lens after it's done. Right now it's not really showing anything different. It is all status 302, so it is redirecting somewhere. We can probably go and check that out as well. If we press Control R, it will send any of these requests to repeater. Let's send it, follow redirect, and we go back to index.php. Cannot find voter with this ID, so it probably is going back to the same page and showing us that the password and ID is not correct. So that does not lead us anywhere at all. This seems interesting. A single quote is rather interesting because SQL injections happen there. And this tilde sign as well. So let's check out what happened there. Yeah, so nothing really interesting, but it's bigger for some reason. Okay, so let's keep SQL injections out of, we can probably do SQL map here. We'll go back to proxy tab and right click, copy to file, and then we'll go to desktop. I think this is the folder, login.request, and save it there. Close up intercept from here, and I'm going to kill the GoBuster now because I think this is enough time for it to find things. Now we can try skill map -r for, this is just to specify a request, and then we can just do -batch, so it does not ask us 100 questions.
It's quite funny. I always do this in a different way. When I have a request that is not being manipulated, in the history tab, I just do the right mouse button and then save request. So you don't have to possible issue of having copy paste errors when you save the request.
Yeah, that's what I did. In
You
my,
did
I
copy
think
paste there, right?
I did copy to file.
Oh, well, also good. Also good.
So yeah, recently I had this thing where a website was uh, acting weird because once I send the request, it goes through. I follow the redirect. Whatever happens had to happen, it happens, and then the page I get is just fine. But then I send the request again, and the cookie is now bad for
Mm,
some reason. And
true.
all it turned out was that once I send the request, after following the redirect, these two spaces gets added up here for some reason.
Okay.
So so after I so this is now a bad request, and when I try to send it again, it just shouldn't work. Like it didn't work on that website.
Yeah.
Yeah. So things like that happen all the time.
Yeah.
But well,
There's a very interesting comment in the chat. It started with, "Hey, SQL injection because it makes use of PHP." And the gevulde cookie says, "Well, a SQL injection is not necessarily dependent on PHP." Now, that's very true. Not everything that is PHP has bad code. Um, within the hack the box set of machines. It is always pretty much always the PHP machine that has the SQL injection stuff. So there's, I guess that's some.
um, I won't say the same because I don't know. Maybe just I have solved a lot of boxes. So yeah, but like in CTF machines, it's generally that a lot of people use PHP
Mhm.
because PHP is old and
Yeah,
everybody know that how to do PHP easily and how to do SQL injections in PHP easily. And it's fairly simple too. You just need one file that connects to the database and it's done.
true story.
While if you try to do the same thing in Flask or in anything else, it's almost the same, but you still have to look up things. So
Yeah,
for SQL injections, you can just find it right away.
yeah, yeah, but it's not language dependent SQL injection. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah. You
and
just need a server that just supports PHP and it works.
hey, look at that! Look at that! What did it find?
So this just ran and it says that it found a time-based SQL injection in the voter parameter. So kudos to whoever suggested trying to find an SQL injection. But but
René,
let's do
yeah.
but let's do another thing. Let's try to uh, go and do exploits. Let's try to do a Google search. And this is the funniest thing about this box. When I was making it, this application had zero exploits in it, like just one. And that's how it is supposed to be solved. That's why I thought I would show you unintended ways to do the box. So now we see before this was the only exploit that worked. But for it to work, we need what happened, man?
Your internet's not very fast, I guess, or Google is not very fast. Expert Google.
Maybe just yeah, exploit. So when I was making this box, this was the only available exploit for it found by Richard Jones, and this is how it was. But for this authenticator RC to work, it needed authentication. And for authentication, we'll see what happens in the box in the intended way to solve it. But when I was recently writing up the writer, while the machine was going to be retired soon, I found a lot of things about this. So after I released that box, a lot of people found stuff, and including myself. After the box was released, I was just checking things out, and I ran SQL map that same night. No, I was just reading the code through just to make sure that everything works. And I realized that it might have an SQL injection.
And
It should
apparently,
work.
if you run a SQL map, it just shows it as well.
Yeah, then I tried that and it worked. So I was like super happy. Yeah, unauthenticated SQL injection. This is the one that I found that day. And it was quite fun because while I was reading the code, so this is why and this is why people do SQLi is in PHP. They are totally unintended sometimes.
Yeah.
It's that easy. So the session starts here. It includes connection.php, and after that, it's just taking a login post variable. So you are posting that, and voter parameter is the vulnerable parameter, and the password is also coming from the post request. After that, it just plain it's just plain SQL query. There is nothing secure about this software at all. So it does select star from voters where voters ID equals to single quote voter, single quote voter, and then the query ends. So now they are passing this voter parameter up here directly inside here. And you can easily break out of this with just a simple code, but you can't really exploit it the normal way because after this goes through in let's say after you try to log in, you just log in and that's about it. It does not really shows the error or shows the output somewhere. This SQL thingy just checks whatever you run here, the query runs and then session gets created or it throws an error,
Yeah,
but it does
but
not reflect.
based on that, you can just retrieve the entire database. It takes a little bit of time because you have to do
Yeah,
client SQL
so
queries.
that's yeah. So now you can't generally just do a normal kind of SQL injection here because it does not reflect anything back. So now you can what you can do is you can just make it delay after a while. So does everybody know here how time-based SQL injection work? If a lot of you don't know, then I can probably explain it,
Yeah,
but it's up to you.
judging from the comments, there's people that do not know how that works. So let's
Okay,
we
so
have some time, so we can take a look.
sure. So I think I'll have to find that out.
Your note collection grew from last time. Okay.
Yeah, a lot. I'm also yeah. Well, so this is my skill injection cheat sheet that I made earlier. Let's just see how time based works. So I was just solving this lab and I made these notes. So important functions to know about it. The sleep function, what it does is if you try in your normal, if you just go ahead and go in an SQL prompt around here, I don't think I have SQLi and my SQL server installed anywhere near here, but it should be somewhere around. Like it should wherever it is installed, you can probably just try these things out. So if you try select sleep 10, then it will just go and sleep for 10 seconds and come back to you and return the results in 10 seconds. Okay, this is what this command does. What if does, I think it is self-explanatory, but I will show you anyway. So if you do select if data select database, so this is just looking up what the database name is. Database function returns the database name. So let's say that my database is named security. So if my database's name is security, then sleep for 10 seconds and that's about it. So if my database's name is actually security, then it will return in 10 seconds. Now we know that for the name, in this case, this is how we are checking that if the database's name is security, then it will return in 10 seconds. So we can just look at the time. If it comes back faster, then it's not probably not security. So in the second example, if we say if database name is gibberish, then sleep 10, and it returns in 0 0 seconds because the database is called security, not gibberish. So in our scenario, we can just this is how we would check and how sleep-based SQL injection works. So this is the lab IP address, and here after ID, this is something similar to this code that we just saw earlier. I think it was here, yeah. So just like this, it must be putting the our own variable that we can manipulate around somewhere in a SQL query here. So what we can do is after 12, we are breaking out of this. So just like there were two single quotes here. So after this, we put another single quote, and after that, we are free of that. We are not in a string anymore. So we can put SQL commands. We do and if database's name is security, then sleep 10, and the page will return in 10 seconds. Okay. Um, So in this scenario, I'm just searching for the whole name of the database because I know that the database's name is security. But generally, in a realistic environment, you would do something like this. So you will try something like this over here. So if substring of table name, whatever the name of the table is, you substring that and extract that one character from information schema. Information schema dot tables have the name for all the tables in the database, name of all of those and columns and everything. Basically, it is a map of everything that is stored in a MySQL database. So we are telling it to do a substring of that one first table in the first column of information schema dot tables, where table schema equals to database. So it is extracting the database name from the it is extracting the table name from the database, and we don't know what the database name is, so we are saying that database equals to is database function because it will return the name of the database, and then we are trying to find out if the first character of that table is E. Let's say we try A here, and if the table name if the name of the table is, let's say, alphabet, then the first word would be A, and it will sleep for 10 seconds. Now I know that the first letter of the table is A. If not, let's say if after I know that the first letter is A, I'll just try to put an L here, and or I will just try B and C and D, and it'll return the page faster because it won't sleep when the alphabet is not L, because second letter of alphabet is L. So we put an L here, and then we try to sleep if the character is not matched from the database. And that's how we know that when the page is sleeping, that means that the word there is this particular word that we are trying to brute force it. So that's
So,
how time-based SQL injection works, basically.
and it's very time intensive, so that's not
Yeah.
always a very good thing. Spectrum Cat says, "Hey, can we not just use show database and show tables?" No, show database and show tables in the console are convenience functions, and they're convenience functions for the information in the information schema. So then you will need to, in normal SQL, you need to write it yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So also the output is not returning anywhere here. So we can't really do show anything because it is not showing you the output of the on the page anywhere.
And
So
then,
how would you expect the output to come there on the page, like where you
yeah,
want it to?
then you still need to go by row and by letter. So that's
Yeah.
yeah, true story.
So,
But this was
same
not an
same thing.
intended path for your machine, I believe.
Yeah, it's not an intended path. It was just something I came across afterwards. while looking through it. So yeah, so if you just try MySQL DB, batch, whatever, and then try this, you'll probably find this and you will be able to extract stuff from it. And XAMPP server on Windows basically lets you read files from this, what do you say, from the file system. So you can read files from it. But if you would just look over here, then voting system have this file upload RC that is authenticated in nature. And that was the only exploit which was available when I made this box in January or February. So it was very latest, and this is what I used. So authenticated remote code execution. But for that to work, we need credentials, and we don't have any credentials. So this is pretty much useless if you don't have credentials. So we come here and start poking at what is Free File Scanner.
Yeah, we'll park the blind SQL injection for now and go on the actual path that Shiraz
Yeah,
intended.
yeah. After that, we can probably look around all the unintended ways and how you get stuck in those ways. But well, so when you see something like this, it says that it scans your files for recognized malware signature. And it also says that we are not live yet. Please subscribe to get updates. Other than that, um, I purpose to provide easy online file scanner to protect internet folks from well-known viruses and bombs. So let's try stuff over here. What should we do? What would you do if this was you instead of me doing it?
Well, if somebody gives me the opportunity to upload a file, I would upload a file and see how it is accessible on the machine. And if I can figure out what type of files it allows, and then trying to figure out if I can upload something that is executable. That's what I
Okay,
would do.
but I don't think we have anything like that. As far as we can see, it
Well, there's a
have these
demo.
two pages. There is a demo page and that says beta.php.
Oh,
We can
specify
specify
URL.
URL, yeah,
Nice.
but not really anything else. So let's poke, we'll come back to this later, but let's poke at that first.
Okay, yeah, sure. Well, then
So
we would intercept it and see if that is susceptible to a SQL injection, I would think.
let's try that.
That's the same
Um,
thing Richard says. Yeah. Intercept,
yeah,
of course. True story. I was with Renee. Let's use the demo and
it's
see if we can upload stuff like that. That's fine.
admin dot whatever. If we try this, it does not do anything. Okay. Maybe intercept is off. Now let's try again. Admin at, yeah, that. And it's an empty request. We don't really get any data out of it, and it is sending a get request to whatever, not really anything at all. So that does not lead us
It's a
anywhere.
marketing website. It lies.
What would you do if you were me doing the same thing? How would you figure out what it is doing?
Figuring out what the form is doing or what the file
Yeah,
is going
what
to
the
do.
form is doing. Yeah,
Well,
what
I would
is the
like to
things
check
that
F12
that makes
first.
most sense?
Let's see F12. Let's see the console, what it actually does. Um, but
Let's
also the paid source will, well, you can do it through paid source, but in the console you can also browse the source, of course. And then you just look up the form, and then you see what the actual thing is doing.
and that's a letdown because the form this should have an action somewhere. So
Yeah,
it can post to somewhere on the backend. But this form is totally empty. And as they say that we are not live yet, but looks like they are not even ready to get subscribers.
yeah.
Well,
So it's a lie. So the form is a lie, right?
yeah. So let's go back and check out. This is how you would get over a rabbit hole. because if you go and try to do anything with this form, it's not going to lead you anywhere because it's literally just nothing. It's literally just doing nothing at all.
True.
So just to make sure we are not being fools again, like this. So we'll just take a look and see what the page source of this is, and look up the form
Yeah, I would just generally first put in
values in it.
some values and then look at how it reacts. Either it might
Yeah,
give an error message.
let's try that. Let's do that.
Yeah, at Google, why not?
Yeah, but the machine doesn't have internet on HTV, so it won't really work. So what we'll
With
try
an
to
hack the
do is,
box, I would do my own web server, of course.
yeah, so we can do HTTP server. What's my IP? I'll try IP ADDR. That's my IP. We try HTTP colon slash slash. If we try that, oh sorry, I have a server running on port 8000.
And what was it, 13 or 18? Your IP address.
18. Yeah. So if we try that, we should uh, get something over here. I'm sorry, this is like too big for my eyes.
My eyes.
Uh, I hope this works too. I'll close this as well and focus on what's at hand. If we try this, let's put a file name over here. And
Yeah,
it tries to get a file.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So that would be a very good statement of, hey, it works.
Okay. So what are people saying? What is the first guess
Uh,
that they make?
well, that's the intercept, don't forget. Here you notice that from a HTTP machine, you can call back to your own. So either hackers might do that too. So, Rene is still making his case for using a VM. Rene, what would you do with this possibility? Um, Richard van S says cross-site request forgery, XRF. But I would say the premise of this machine, it says it's a free file scanner, so it will download this file. We now gave it a 404. So what happens if we give it a real file? Will it tell us something about that file?
Yeah. Then let's try that. What kind of file do you want to give it?
Well, let's first give it a txt file.
Let's do
So let's,
whatever.
yeah.
Sad boy.
Sad boy, I don't
Okay.
know why that comes into your brain when you talk about this, but yeah, maybe we can give it some love, right? See what happens.
Kidding dot whatever. Kidding dot txt.
Yeah.
Let's try that. Okay. Um,
Okay, anybody has other suggestions, please? No, Richard says good one. So Richard probably had the same idea.
it says sad boy for some reason,
Oh,
but
it did,
doesn't really say anything. Yeah.
but it read
Now
the
what?
entire file. Nice,
Yeah, it read the file.
nice.
Now, what ideas do anyone have any ideas what we can probably do with it? And I would also be interested if we can just do stuff with it. Uh, let's take the suggestion from what our super intelligent people know
Yeah,
and think about this
let's
idea.
wait
Yeah,
for the chat. There's generally a little bit of delay on YouTube, so we need to
yeah,
wait a little bit. But upload a PHP with PHP info in it. That's a suggestion.
okay. Info.php.
You need to write proper PHP, right?
Yeah,
So PHP tag and stuff like that.
Yeah, we need this.
Question mark before the P.
Yeah, and we need this. So this should probably be good enough, right?
Yeah, let's see. If it doesn't do anything, it will just print out PHP info. If it does something, it will print out the entire PHP info. So that will be quite fun.
What we add here? Info.php. So goes out there and it gets the file,
Oh,
but
the suspense. The suspense is killing me.
it doesn't do anything.
Hmm.
So,
Okay.
damn, what is it? It
Wait. First, Ronnie says, while the closing PHP is so 2010, we don't need that anymore. But it's quite funny. What did you do? You just entered a slash. It's not what you did.
yeah, I just entered an IP address and port, and we had the open server up here, but now we have our own files listed here.
Ah, very good. This is the this is the in directory listing of your machine, right?
Yeah, these files, if we close the web server, these are our own files.
Yes.
So I think people might get some ideas from there. Do we have anything? Let's move on.
No, now click the info PHP from the open mirror. Then
That really won't do anything, I think, because that
let's
is
cover
just,
the machine. Uh,
yeah,
and it
not,
says,
not very
well,
helpful.
I'm not going to do that. But there's, it's quite interesting. There's a question: does it actually include the file? Okay, Ali says maybe we can list the web service directory. Maybe there's somewhere that it stores files.
Yeah, why not? Let's try to do GoBuster on this thing.
Yeah.
We'll run GoBuster like in another terminal because that is too big for my eyes. GoBuster and
I think early access will be a new machine, or is it an old machine?
it's just another thing that I'm trying out to test. What the hell is what it's called? .love.htb or staging.love.htb. That's what it's called.
Yeah. And Ronnie in the Discord chat says that we're keeping the suspense up. Ooh, yeah, we are.
So here we are. Invalid certificate. Let's just dash K into it and should work. What happened? 403. We got a 403 there. So let's try HTTP. Maybe that should work because this is running in HTTP and not HTTPS. But again, we are getting 403 somewhere, and let's try what that is. Or maybe this. I kind of feel stuck at this point because I would kind of feel stuck because
You think we're on the wrong track?
no, I'm not taking anyone on the wrong track. I'm just
You
running
feel
out
stuck.
of things to do. Yeah,
How's the Dare Buster going?
it just have something called examples,
Oh,
but we have a 406 there, so we can't really access it, I guess. We have licenses.
licenses. Maybe there's a README as well.
Yeah, let's try that. If it does, we'll know there is one. README. Generally, they are all capital, so
Yeah.
I'll just do that. And it's not really
Dot
found.
MD.
README dot md.
Previous Buster shows /admin. The
Yeah.
first Go Buster that we ran, maybe on the voter stuff, showed a /admin.
Yeah, but that was running on a different subdomain. That was on www.love.htb. That is a different website, as we know, by different things. But one thing we can do is, like, I would get some idea with this thing is that because it's not really doing anything with a PHP file, maybe it cannot really do, it might be just getting them, but it's not executing PHP just because.
That's true. That's true.
So what I would try to do is maybe I can just try and what was the IP address of the
Well,
box?
I might have another suggestion. We can try including files from the machine itself.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
That's what we're gonna do.
oh, well, it's a very good idea then.
Yeah. So we go and we put this IP address because it works with IP addresses. So and we do this and let's try and see what directory listing it shows us now. It should show us something because yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's just a
That
voting idea. In
that's
meanwhile, Jennifer asks, why was port 8000 used? It's the default port that Python uses to spawn up a HTTP server. So he could have given it a port 80 to not have to specify the port. But when you start a PHP a Python web server, it generally uses port 8000, and so he had to use it.
you can use anything up here. You can just specify a port, but one thing to remember is if I try to spawn something on port 80, yeah, port. It was that. Okay, I just have to specify a port up here, and it says permission denied. If I try something like 90, it would also fail because
Everything
anything
under
below it,
1000, yeah, 1024.
yeah, maybe we can try 4000, and it would work. And
True.
it would work because the first 1000 ports you need root permissions to basically spawn anything or use them. So that's why you can't. Uh, I can probably spawn something on port 80, but I will need to put in sudo here.
Yeah, man, that's not
So it now works.
useful.
Okay.
Um, Renee says, so when you submit its own URL, then it shows the HTML page with voting. What happens if you add 127001, so localhost instead of a
We
machine?
can try that. We can try that. 127001.
With some slashes. I like my URLs with
Oh,
slashes.
yeah. So, oh man, where? Yeah. This is what you're saying, right?
Yeah,
We're just hitting port 80 with 127.0.0.1. Let's see what happens. I don't think it would work, but let's see how that is. It
still a
just
voting system.
shows that same page.
Okay.
But something to remember, this is where I wanted people to be stuck at because I'm evil. I just wanted them to not have the. I could have just added LFI or something here. But if we try to go to Google or if we try to go to our local ports, it is hitting that. That means it is making request on server's behalf. So we have SSRF here.
True story. Yeah.
Now, if we go back, if you were paying attention to all our this thing enumeration,
Port
then you
5000.
would probably see something like this, that there was another port 5000 there, which we did not yet checked out. So we can probably check it out right now. Uh, what is the IP of this thing? 235? I don't know.
39.
Let's try that. 239 and colon port 5000. 239 returns just the voter ID page, but
Yeah.
it should return something different.
The SRF that Shiraz talking about, it's server-side request forgery. So it's the moment where you, or the action where you have the server actually do a request for you to a port or to a web interface. That normally should not be possible, in the sense that you always come from an external IP, but if you then come through a web interface, you actually use the internal IP of that machine. So,
Exactly.
yeah,
So in our scenario, like if we see our HTTP server, we must have logs here. So when we try to make a request, the request came from IP address 10.10.10.239 because the server is making the request and downloading the file from us from its own behalf.
indeed,
My IP address is 10.10 something, I don't know, 18, 10.10.14, 18. So this is my IP address. But when I tried to make the request, the file was downloaded with like the request came from this IP address. So we are able to make the request from the server's behalf. So that's server side request forgery. And there are a lot of things, good things if you want to read them. I recommend reading Portswigger's Web Security Academy's articles if you want to. But we had another HTTP server here, and if we go to port 5000, it says forbidden. You don't have permission to access this resource. And then it just reveals that we have an Apache server running over there.
yeah,
But let's say that maybe we can just not access it from outside. Maybe we can do it from the network inside, from the same network. Maybe from the local host it is available,
indeed.
but remotely it is not allowing us. So let's try that. We go back http ://staging .love.htb and
Wait for it.
yeah, maybe we can just see if we can access. We can't access it, but maybe the server can access it. So we put its own IP address and port 5000 that is not available from outside and try hitting scan files.
You don't have
You
permission.
don't.
Maybe you need to do one two
Now,
seven.
why this does not work? Because we put an external IP address there. Now, if we try to put this, because the port is running on the same web, like same host, you can try running it through 127001. My keyboard is not working for some reason. Yeah, 5000, and let's try that. And to our surprise,
Yeah,
yeah,
a
we have
password
credentials here.
dashboard. Yeah,
Yeah,
every good
so
organization needs a password dashboard.
every good organization needs a password dashboard, and generally it's like not generally, but like it's a bad assumption that anything that's running locally, it's safer than exposing it to the internet. So a lot of development environments that I have seen in my life, they use either super weak passwords or something that is completely exposed like that. So we were able to access it from 127.7.127.0.1 because because the developer who created or who was managing the server admin assumed that, hey, maybe if it's running on the internal host, no one can reach it. So it's totally safe and only people with the access of internal network can reach this and they should have access to the password dashboard.
True.
So we have this here, voting admin credits, vote admin credits. So this looks very familiar because it's voting systems administration credits. And if we go back to our
Almost
intended
as
way,
secure as a real
it
voting
is
system.
supposed to have authenticated remote code
Yeah,
execution.
there we go.
So if we now go back and try to log into voting system, it should let us in. So username is admin and the password is at love is in the air with, I don't know, 4 exclamation marks. Here we are. So if we try this, it should work, but it doesn't because if we remember from our GoBuster, we saw something called admin, and right now, if let the page reload, it says voter ID, not really admin's ID or something. So it says voter ID is not confirmed and we can't log in.
Yeah.
But if we try the same thing with admin, then we should have something called else here.
Yeah, and we got that URL from the GoBuster listing earlier, which at
My
that time
internet's
we
not that
got.
slow. My VM is going slow. Maybe I
Uh,
should just close Box. Wait.
I don't know. Strange things happen when you
Okay,
close.
so now it just says username, and I'm gonna put the password over here, admin, and sign in.
See, bad things happen when you
Proxy
shut down
server
your
is refusing
host.
connection because I closed perp and this was still going through a proxy. I'll turn off this and it should work. Oh man,
Yeah, I think you reloaded
admin.
the URL. Yeah.
Yeah, so it worked. We see a redirection to home.php now.
Yeah. We wait for the screen to catch up.
Should just work. Yeah,
Ronnie says that there's
so it
too many
opened
users connected to the machine.
and there is not really anything interesting here. It looks like a generic admin dashboard. But now
Yeah.
that we have credentials, we can probably try this thing. So I'll just, it must be there in search exploit, but I'll just download it from here.
Yeah, I actually prefer to
Public
just
ad.
to do search exploit, but yeah, that works.
If we read the exploit, there are some things that we would want to change. That is website's URL. I'm going to put www.love.htp and the username is admin. The password is
Love is in there.
this. No, not this. Don't know what the password is. Let's copy from here again. This is the password. Let's check our IP address. I think it's 18.
Yeah.
So 10, 10, 14, 18, and the port is 8080. And we'll try to run it now. Or give an exclamation. Uh, Although I have already read it, but we'll just see. And something that I don't like about this exploit is that it is a PHP file and it takes these things and replace it with these things. So the IP variable up here is now converted into IP from like invalid PHP. So this thing gets replaced with our own IP, and then the port is replaced with port. Then there is this payload that is, I think, base 64 encoded. And when I try to reverse it and try to see what it does, we don't really see what it does. It is UPS packed, and it is also it is. But if you look at the file closely, it just converts that base 64 and puts it, then unzips it, and then puts it in a default shell dot whatever and writes to that file. After that, it executes the command that we give it, and then sends a reverse shell on this thing. After that, it does a bunch of things and calls the shell. Up here, it's calling shell.php, and that's where it wrote the file. It wrote the exe, and then it is trying to now call the file. I don't like this exploit very much because we can't really see what the exe does. Like we can, but I did not spend a lot of time looking how it is doing stuff. I tried a little bit of reversing, but it was not like it was beyond me at one point. So yeah,
Yeah.
am I not
That,
connected anymore?
no, you are. You are. It's
Hello,
hello.
I can't hear you anymore. Yeah,
Hello.
Well,
Uh-oh. It said something about his panic
oh my God.
and his.
Oh, hey, sorry. Hey, I
Hello.
think I couldn't hear you anymore.
No,
Sorry.
it also said something about a panic button, and also I would like to note that your battery is running low. But,
Yeah. So,
so,
did you said a lot of things that I didn't
no,
hear?
I did not say a lot of things. You were talking about not being able to read the exploit, and that is something you don't really like about it. And I was about to confirm that that's a bad thing. Exploits that are given publicly should be readable, and they should be you should be accountable for the exploit in the sense that you should be able to figure out what it should do.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, so I don't really like it a lot, but it is a simple file upload PHP shell that you can do it yourself. You can just read the exploit and see what it does, and we can do it manually. I would do it anyway, like any way that you guys like. I can do it manually. I can do it with the exploit.
Well,
Both have.
let's follow the path.
Okay then. So we change those variables. Now we'll try to run it. Python 3. The exploit's called that. Let's see. We need to listen on a port. NC, LVNP. Port was 8000. Now let's try that. And for some reason it was not working.
Hmm.
Now, interesting thing about this is it does not really take any proxies, but let's see what it does. If we can't really see how it's doing it, at least we can see why it is failing.
Sure.
So maybe we can just find get requests because it is using, if we see up here, it is importing request library in Python. And if we
Yeah.
see requests, then it is doing request.session. So it must do some get or post. Oh, sorry. So it must be doing so it is doing session.get calls, and we have s.get to get the index page, I think. It must be doing any post request that is also here. So we'll go and look up how to do proxies. Although it's like super simple, but I'll show you if you want to read more. Uh, Python request proxies. You can set it up easily. I do it a lot of times when exploit don't work, and I want to show you how to do it as well, just so you
I
know.
wonder if the chat has figured out why it does not work. So,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you guys are very smart,
yeah,
but
let's wait and see while you set up the proxy. So,
yeah. So I'll just show you how to set up a proxy because some people don't know how to do it, and it's just a good practice to know how to debug and fix these exploits that you see online. So what we'll do is I'll put in my proxies. I'll listen on burp on port 8080. Probably not going to listen on HTTPS, but yeah, 127.0.01 and 8080.
yeah, if you're
This
anything like me, you would just put this in your notes and then copy paste it. So it's good to add all the things that you might need.
that's what I do all the time, but this is just something that I just like to copy from that website. So if you just simply look at it, you can after the get request, you can just pass the proxy variable with your this is the proxies variable, and we can pass it with just like how we would pass any headers or cookies in Python request. So that's what we are gonna do. I am probably going to look up interesting things. We're gonna put page, and after that, that's exactly what I'm gonna copy paste here. Yeah.
almost.
Oh, do you guys know how to undo in
Yes.
Vim?
Yeah.
I knew how to undo in Vim, but I just avoided because I some like there were times when I messed up my whole file.
Okay. But
The,
you now no longer have the proxy array as well, the dictionary. I forgot to say
yeah.
that in between.
What you mean? I can just pass in proxies and that would work.
But you close the file without saving it with the proxy dictionary.
Okay. We'll find if there are more post requests that are going somewhere. So it is passing cookies here.
And Ali also says if you want to undo in Vim, it is just the U for undo.
Yeah, we have passed here. This looks fine. Then we have here as well. Yeah, so I think all the GET requests are done. And if we do this is also fine.
Yeah,
Now we're gonna,
you're still going to need to add the proxies again
why?
because you close the file without adding the proxies. The variable proxy itself. It's not
Oh,
in the file anymore.
okay. Let's just quickly do that then. Yeah, I get your point. I should have it copy pasted somewhere. Well, until burp starts, we will be good to go. Um, yeah. Oh man.
And you need to fix the quotes. That's why I never copy from the internet. It messes up the quotes.
Have to make it pretty, even if it doesn't work.
Well, you should also fix the IP address
Yeah.
and ports.
127.0.0.1. And now every request that this script does should go through our own proxy,
Yeah.
and
In,
we'll
in
be able
the
to figure out.
in the chat, there's still no remarks as to what the problem is. I'm sure some people have figured it out.
So the problem here is if we try to do something like this, if we try to run the exploit on its own while our NC server is running, we don't get a shell while we should. So that's why we set up a proxy in between. So whatever the script is doing, it will go through a proxy so we can see what the script is doing. And given on that result, we can debug the exploit to make it work. So this can be closed up. So now when we ran it, instead of just exiting out on us, it's now showing that request in bulk.
Yeah.
And if you look at the request, we can let it go through, or we can just go send it to repeater. Send it to repeater. In repeater, and then send the request. And it says page is not found. So apparently, there is something more that we needed to change in that exploit. It tries to go to vote system admin index.php. But
Yeah.
if we take a closer look, we don't have any vote system directory over here. We just have directly admin and votes.php or whatever the file that is. So we don't need this thing. So if we just delete this, it should work. Now we get a 200, okay. So in this case, if we keep removing these vote system and all that, it is sending all everything. It is we can see what the exploit is doing one by one with each request. We can keep doing this, or we can just straight away remove all the proxies and
I
I'll
would
show
not
you
have
how to.
suggestions for this. I would have fixed the exploit itself.
I just wanted to show you how it does whole thing. So now it all the requests went through. We fixed it one by one, and we now have a shell, and we have exploit that actually works. So now let's
Yay!
go and fix the exploit. Now let's go and fix the exploit. This was the issue that index page have this extra directory in it
You
that
do
will get removed now.
DW. Uh, don't do stuff like that. Go stand in front of the word and do DW.
TW.
That's
Yeah,
delete
Vim.
words.
Sure. That's Vim is super cool, but I just I keep forgetting things. Believe me, I took a whole course, a whole, I don't know, I read the whole documentation once just to know how to copy things. It was just why I still feel sad how I wasted all that time.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
so at least you know how to quit Vim, right?
yeah, I know how to create Vim. I know all the basic things. I just don't like to. I don't like to delete things in Vim because I always fear I will delete something more than I need to. Unless I want to clear out the whole file, then Vim is perfect.
Hmm.
So if we do dir, we have this thing called default shell that I don't like,
Can you
and
read
the
it
rest
over
of it.
so people can read it?
Yeah. So if in our reverse shell we do ls, it says whatever. So we do dir, and this is what we have.
Yeah. Ali is also making a comment. He says if you cannot fix the exploit for some reason, you can always do a match and replace rule inside of Burp Suite, and then you never have
Yeah,
to
yeah,
fix the URLs yourself.
yeah. That's true. We can just go over here and in options we can go down here, intercept request, and do a match and replace somewhere. Yeah, here it is. So we
Yeah,
select what we want to replace and we add it here and then do it like that.
indeed.
But moving on. So we have this. Now, what would be a first step in doing privilege escalation?
Well, first I would determine what user I am. So I do a who am I?
Let's do who am I like the pros.
Yeah, I would like to know if what level I'm in at right now, what user.
You know, uh, what I would do first, I will exit the shell and I will do RL wrap and then open NC again
Okay.
because that's something that's super nice. If you don't know about RL wrap, it's a super awesome thing that you all should know about. RL wrap, what it lets you do is in Windows shells, because you can't do Python, you can't do a PTY shell and make it all nice according to your terminal. At least you have a little bit better shell because it line wraps all the things. So if you
Yeah.
run NC with that, you can run all the previous commands that you have ran, and that's super awesome. Like
Yeah.
it's a
Like
pain to do this on Windows.
yeah. So
Yeah.
there are some suggestions. Rene says, "Hey, shell.php looks interesting," and Richard
Um,
says, "Run a netstat." And I would say, figure out who you are first. So,
if we do shell.php, if you, as we read the exploit, this is exactly what it writes. After that, it executes shell.exe and writes that shell.php and then writes that exe to give us a shell. So this is the file that we created ourselves. We'll do who am I. It says we are Phoebe on the host of named love.
it's a
So
friends-inspired machine.
no, it's not. But yeah, it might be. Who knows? Um, there is nothing else interesting. We can do a net start. You know, uh, Let's start, and it will just show us all the ports that are listening. And this does not seem anything at all interesting because everything is listening. Whatever is inside is also listening on the outside. And the interesting thing about this is that on port 5000, it should be listening, like it should be available for the outside network, and it is. We
Yeah.
can see that 5000 is open, but we can't access it because Apache does not allow it, and we have bound the connection from only localhost. So that's why it works like that.
Yeah. So
Just a
uh,
tidbit.
there's somebody who says, "Hey, I don't understand how he got the exploit working." So to recap, the exploit next to the general variables was using a wrong URL. It actually assumed that there would be a slash voting system slash something in the URL. We removed that, and that makes the exploit working. Um, there is quite some comments. How about we first get user.txt, right? Because well, we're actually doing the CTF. Well, we can people can go to Phoebe and get user.txt itself right now, of course.
Yeah, why not? Let's do users and see what directories we have here. We only have Phoebe and administrator, so that's pretty much straightforward that we need to get admin here because this is a CTF after all. So yeah, and we do type user.txt and
And
it
then we have
shows
a
us the
hash.
user.user flag. You can go submit that.
Um, yeah, so we have the hash. We also know what other users are there. So there's only administrator probably.
We
Um,
can also check out net user just
yeah,
to be sure. And these other accounts
indeed.
are all default, so we only have two users.
So Richard is saying maybe we should poke around the database. Uh,
Yeah, why not?
Voting system had a database, of course. Maybe there's something interesting there as well.
Sure, why not? Let's go and try stuff with the database. I forgot where we landed first. Need to look up the path. Yeah, SAM
I
server.
think
Yeah.
exactly. It's,
So htdocs should have it have a couple of files. It has OMRS where I think the voting system lives. It has the
password
password
manager.
manager.
Uh,
Yeah, this password manager was the evil. We can take a look at. I'll maybe just try to do PowerShell. I don't know if it worked. It should work. Yeah. So now we should have access to cat or not.
no, yeah,
Okay. We
just hang your show.
yeah. Just take a shell again. Uh, Oh man, who's sending me messages?
uh,
I'll just exit Discord.
hey, I'm seeing you on live feed. I'm seeing you on live feed. Yeah. um,
Oh,
hey,
oh,
Discord is also there. Yeah, there
and then yeah, we just had I just had our own channel open, so I think it's fine. CD password manager.
In the Discord, somebody is saying that they had a different way. There's a pwn.php in the images, so maybe through one of the other users also put a file there as well.
So
Yeah,
um, so this is really nothing that new because we already knew that what admin is.
yeah.
This we can also take a look at this thing. Uh, type. So if we just take a look at this, it looks like almost static page, but it is reading a file from threads.txt. So it's
Yeah.
using a text-based database or whatever. Not really a database, but yeah.
No, but we
Ah,
could take a look at the MySQL database maybe, but that
yeah, let's go and check out these other directories and see if we can
yeah.
find MySQL's password, so we can poke around that. Uh,
It's always fun.
yeah.
Let's see.
So now that we know what we are dealing with, maybe we can go back to this exploit, and instead of poking around this in the machine, we can just go over here and go look at the source code, because the software link is given in the exploit. So and we just exploited that, so we are 100% sure that's the exact same thing that we want to look at.
Mm, sure. Instead of doing it on the machine itself.
Yeah, uh, it may take a little bit to download for me. We'll let that download, I guess. So we'll come back to it. If it has some things that we need, it might have credentials, and we'll take a look if it has. If not,
We go to the FFS. It
that
is
is our
free file
beta.php.
scanner, I think. Right.
Yeah, because it was acting all weird, so I would want to look at how it was doing that. So,
Right.
I, if you look at beta.php, what it does is, this is why it was not working. If we unregistered the PHP file and PHP wrapper, so you can't actually make any filter requests that you would generally. If you had that wrapper available, you can probably read the source code from outside, but you can't. So if you try to read is the post parameter, and let's check cross-reference it with what we had here on staging.data.php. If you look at the source code, it should say read somewhere. Does it happen? Read. Yeah. So this input's name is read, so we are in that exact file for sure. And what it is doing, it's doing a curl request and then putting that file in, basically not, it's doing a curl exec. So it is, if we might put a bash file out there, I don't know, it might get executed, but I don't know.
Mm.
Rest of it is just normal HTML, and the PHP code lives on literally the same file, so we didn't have to go back and see that it's over here.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't see any credentials, so I would rather leave it alone. Now, do we have any more suggestions? So
Let's see.
far,
Richard says, "Hey, take a look at php.ini." Anybody have some suggestions what to do now?
I
Or
think
which
php.ini should
both
be
of you
here.
want to combine?
Maybe we should just run something that would help us enumerate more. If we
Personally, I would put up win piece.
Yeah. So I'll go into the escalation suite, and there is this. I'll do a git pull first, because why not? I have not done it in a while.
There's a bunch of comments. Richard says, "Hey, take a look at the installed software." Uh, Jim says, "Hey, how about the passwords.txt?" Richard also says, "Hey, take a look at program files." Ronnie asks, "What is the user ID you are now?" We are Phoebe, um, so probably some smelly cat will be coming around. Uh, so Richard also suggests WinPiece, also my personal favorite. Let's take WinPiece. Renee says, "Look in the administrator user folder." Yeah, that's
So here we are. Not really anything. Password.txt is just a default password file that is not really used anywhere. This is saying that root and password means no password, but of course there is a password on MySQL. Can't just use it willy-nilly. And other than that, I think that's about it that we where we can go. We can go and look at administration. It, uh, I would not really see how you could. Uh,
You need to
oh,
go to
sorry.
slash users
Slash user slash administrator.
yeah,
So access is denied because we are not administrator.
yeah.
Other than that, what was the last suggestion?
Well, look
I
at
would just,
program files, see what is installed.
yeah, why not? Go to program files. Any of these would work. I would first go here. Oh, where is it in the first place? Yeah, it should work. Yeah.
Magic.
So, code magic.
Yeah.
We don't really have anything here. These are just common Windows files. Nothing really that of our own interest, other than this thing
Rample.
or
Yeah.
VMware. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you do anything, we can take a look at logs. Looks like a bunch of logs, but they are too big in size, and I would not risk my reverse shell right now. But it's but it
They
does
are,
not really reveal any. What?
it says that they're actually on the file system. There in the root, there is an administration folder.
Yeah, there is an administration folder as I can see. That this is actually interesting because this is non-default. Other folders are generally just defaults. And if we look here, we have VMware Tools Upgrader. We have set up 64.exe and set up program files and all that. So we don't exactly know what's going on here. This is not a default folder, but it has a bunch of installers and stuff.
Type.
I would run WinPeace at this point because, yeah, that's the first thing that I would do on Windows OS instead
Yeah.
of manually poking around. We can also generally a good idea is to look at common things or running other scripts like powerup.sh or something similar. But here WinPeace should do. I think it's in binaries. And 64. We can also run system info. The machine is 2-3 months old, so by now it should have a couple of things that, like recently, a lot of Windows exploits have came out, Hive Nightmare, Print Nightmare, and all that. So it might be affected to that, but I don't think so. Uh, it might be affected with Hive Nightmare, but not Print Nightmare. It's not a AD box. So we're gonna start a Python server, and we'll download winpiece.exe.
Yeah. I will put a
But
link to WinPeace in the chat.
yeah,
We talked about WinPeace
in our previous talk.
last time as well. It's
Yeah.
part of the privilege escalation awesome suite. Awesome scripts suite.
They have a OSCP friendly version of their thing, of their tool too. So don't use this in OSCP anymore. There
Well,
was drama.
that was not entirely true anymore, right? There's now a OCP friendly flag.
Yeah, there is. That is what we were talking about last time.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Because at that time there was somebody who was not given his exam due to.
They actually gave the exam, but they failed. But then offensive security passed them because I don't know why. They just felt like all the harsh things coming towards them, so they should just pass the guy.
Yeah. So,
Well, now we have an OSCP friendly version of this, so great. But yeah, so I just did PowerShell-C, wget, and put an IP address. My server was running port 80, and we downloaded this file. Now we should have it in here somewhere. Yeah. So this is winpiece.exe. We'll go run it. Okay, this is not Linux, so this should work. Right off the bat tells me a lot of things.
yes, yes. Globemaster also came in after fixing his exploit. So well done, well done. Yeah.
Okay. So as you can see, it was a complete mistake to actually update the script because there is so much more now. I have not ran the script in a while. It's literally a book's worth of information. At
That's
this point, they said,
yeah.
yeah.
I
So
I will not put a spoiler on the screen yet. I think Ronnie already solved it. Auto refund. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, Ronnie, this is the same script that we're talking about. Somebody did OCP exam. Eventually, they got their OCP uh, uh, certificate, but there was a note that
we
WinPeace
will not. Yeah,
does auto elevation and should not be used anymore. Uh,
yeah. So no, that one was for Linux. It does not automatically exploit this vulnerability that we have in this machine.
no, not specifically this machine.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we have the host name is Love, as we already know. The product name is Windows 10 Pro. Release ID is 2009. Now they have like 20H4, I think. But yeah, so this is the old version. Time and all that is almost irrelevant. Hot fixes are these. So if there are any kernel exploits, you can probably run Watson and tell if there are any. But WinPeace does it itself. They have inbuilt Watson thingy. So now it's saying that it has not found any kernel vulnerabilities yet. Microsoft updates that this machine is missing right now are all of these. We can also look at environment variables, but none of them look all that interesting right out of the bag. So yeah, keep going. So WinPeas have this awesome color coding. Red is indicates special privileges, a privilege over objects or something misconfigured. So this is super cool because it right off the bat shows you that hey, this might be 100% vulnerable and you can exploit it. So we will pay attention to a lot of reds here. Username is Phoebe. A lot of things we already know about over here. Going to here, if enabled, the driver is needed for LSAS, but we cannot really do anything. LSAS protection is not enabled, but LSAS is also not running here. So it's not worth looking at here. Credential guard is also not enabled, and it's totally fine. Other than that, we have cache logon counts. We can by system access. Okay, credential will be cached and accessible by system user. So if we were system user, we can probably use this thing to actually get credentials of these users because they are cached, and by that way we can gain persistence. This is actually great because I before it don't used to do that. Don't used to tell you that. AV was detected, but it's fine because we were able to run our code fine. So maybe it's disabled. We have local token with filter policy set to 1. This is the actually something that is really cool. So I will tell you about this later on after we completely solve this machine. This file is like 51 Bs. So this is console history. We might want to look at it. Going here, permission authenticated users can actually do. There is 3 GB of space available. We have authenticated users have permissions on it. You might want to check that out. But looking at this, we have always installed elevated here,
Yeah.
and this is like hot trend. So maybe we want to check this out. Hacktricks have awesome articles about all of these techniques, general common techniques. I always check them out. So let's copy that link and check this out because it says this might be interesting.
It's also a very classic issue.
Windows vulnerability, yeah. So you might actually find it in real world example, like in real world environments on engagements. Uh, I think it should just drop us in the right place, right?
Yeah, I think you were scrolling when it.
Yeah. So if these two registry keys are set to 1, then the user of any privilege can execute a MSI file as anti-authority system. So if this registry key always installed elevated is set to 1 in local machine and in current user, then the current user have the privileges to run any MSI file or installation. Like, have you seen setup? So you can
Yeah.
run a software setup with the privileges of anti-authority system, that is the administrator, or even higher than that. You can basically run a system from that. So we also have something landman compatibility, or we have NTLM2 false or enabled. Yeah, it's false. It is showing that it have NTLM version 1 installed. So it might be vulnerable to eternal blue, but it is not. But it is showing that it is. So yeah, I'll
Yeah.
probably
At this point, I would personally, I would first try to always install Elevate.
yeah, because it just
So
is
always.
clearly vulnerable to it. So let's try that now. If we go and try to make MSF Venom, okay, I have it in my history. Cool. Okay, I also had the same IP address. So this is how we can use Metasploit to generate a malicious setup, MSI, so we can get a reversal from it. We can also run commands from it, but it depends when we want to do what. So
Yeah.
if we try that,
For
it
those
should.
who don't know, MSF Venom is part of Metasploit, so it is within every Kali Linux installation. It is available. Um,
Yeah. So here we'll do that.
yeah.
You're in the wrong folder.
And what it does,
Yeah.
you specify what the payload is. In this case, you want to run a reverse shell on Windows 46-bit and then connect back to your machine on port 4444. And the format that it must come in is an MSI, so an installer. And because we know the machine will run installers as the system user, and we output that to reverse.msi. So we will get a package, which is a MSI, which will actually start a reverse shell back to our machine.
So now what we'll do is, yeah, so an important thing, or let's just first exploit it and then I'll tell you how I found out about this important bit about this classic vulnerability, and about also how Windows security actually works, how
Yeah.
Windows manages its user sessions and everything. So
Shiraz,
first,
there's a
yes.
question from Jim. He says,
Hmm?
why MSF Venom? There was already access to the user through PHP. And that is true, Jim. There's access to the user via PHP, so we're on the machine. But now we need to run something or do something that gives us a higher level, namely administrator or even higher, the system user. And we can do that by running an installer as the system user, because that process will run as the system user and then connect back to us. So yeah, we'll create multiple shells for this, even though we already have a shell, simply
Yeah.
because there are different elevation rights.
So now, because we selected port 444, we'll open Netcats listener on port 444, and we'll open up a HTTP server here. Then I'll try PowerShell -c for a command, then wget, and 10, 10, 14, 18, and what did we call that?
Port
Reverse.msi.
8000, don't forget the ports.
Yeah, 48,000. Then this, and we'll call it reverse. I forgot to put the encode there. I
And
think I messed up.
we'll see. Renee says, could this be done without WinPeace and MSF Venom?
Yeah, 110%. So what you would do instead of doing this is you can run normal registry query. So you would do reg query, and then you will put this address of the registry query, because this is a well-known address and well-known misconfiguration. So you should always check that when you are dealing with a Windows system. So if you will try, this is how MSFNM this is how WinPeas actually does this. So it will run this reg query and then put this registry query, and then query for always installed elevated registry key. And the results would show us that we have it set to 1. And then for if we do the same thing, but for instead of HK current user, or we can do it for local machine, HKLM, Hive key local machine. That's what it is, what the full form is, I think. So we get this as set to 1 as well. So then we move on with our own payloads. In this scenario, Hacktricks is showing how to add a user. So we can basically add a Windows user. And for us, we are right now trying to get a reverse shell. So
And you can do it without MSF Venom, but then you will need to create your own installer that does something.
yeah,
And there's tools for that, or you can just actually create an installer that does it. But I would highly recommend using MSF Venom. But it is possible to do so. Right? And
so you can also do it. You can even do it easily with PowerUp. But we are not in a PowerShell shell right now. We can probably get a PowerShell shell, but we just choose to do it this way. But we can also go ahead and do it with PowerUp, and then it will just add a user by itself if we just invoke this write user add MSI function. So it will just make a MSI itself and execute it, and yeah, that will be it.
and there's even some tools to actually create MSIs, like that one.
Yeah, yeah, that is also possible. So now we have downloaded reverse.msi. If we do MSI exec, quiet qni, then I think it should just give us a shell. As now if we do who am I,
Da, da,
we are
da.
in the authority system,
Yay!
and we are root. So if we go back into users, administrator, now we should not have it say that our access is denied. That's why we actually wanted to elevate our privileges as to someone who asked why we are doing this. This is why, because we can't access the whole system as CB because we don't have permission. But now we have permissions to do whatever we want with the system, and that's what we wanted. This is the second stage of hacking. After you gain access, you try to elevate your privileges, then you maintain persistence and all that. So yeah, now we have root, and we'll type that out. There you go. Anticlimax.
Oh yeah, no, the anticlimax is awesome. And it's very good. There's
Do we have any
noise.
comments?
I will make some noise for you. Yay!
No, I mean, like, did people follow along?
Yeah. There's a lot of questions along the way, of course. Of course, they are now doing that last step. Um, so yeah, that's quite interesting. And Renee says, "Congratulations, you hacked your own box." Uh, let's see.
So, so do we have any more comments? I'll just go read now.
Let's see. Jim says, "Oh, that makes sense. Got to learn more how Windows does security and writes. Good explanation." Um, People are obviously happy that you made it. Um, Anybody have any more comments or questions about this part? We've had quite a lot of comments throughout the part, of course. Um,
Yeah, I don't think so.
no,
But
there's a little bit of delay. We need to wait for the delay of YouTube to
oh,
because we're
yeah.
doing a live stream. It's not instant as you would think with live.
I will show you how to do it unintended, a few unintended ways to do it
Yeah,
after then. But it might be a little bit offbeat, like it's a beginner's machine, but yeah, all of these ways are pretty easy to do. But I think SQLmap was able to pull out hashes of some users or something like that. Wait for it. Mm, SMB server, my server, and sudo.
yeah, that needs to be seen.
Yeah. So I have a SMB server running over here, and I wanted to grab hashes from the FFS, I think. These are some ways that I found out about after I released the box, and later on there were these things that were there, and I was trying these things out today. They might work or might not work, but yeah, I need to put in my server here. I don't think this would work, but this should work. Not this. No luck.
No,
Well,
no, no. But is it also possible through the blind SQL injection?
yeah, it is also possible from. So I was looking at this. Like this is an old technique, but it still works. Maybe it does work with my box. I have not tried it, but it will be a good experiment if you guys wanna. So
Uh,
we can just start up responder. So what this article says is we start up responder. It starts up SMB server. Then where we go back to the SQL injection, and I think we try to make request to our own file, right? I think we do. Well, we'll see. XAMPP server, this thing I didn't know when I was making the boxes. XAMPP server on Windows does give uh, SQL map a way to actually, what do I say? XAMPP server lets, so there is a special privilege in SQL, MySQL. You can have a file privilege, and with that file privilege, you can read files from the file system. We could, if we wanted to, we could have maybe tried OSL if that works. I don't know. Or we can just try to read files from that server to ourselves.
Yeah, it will take some time. While we wait, Guitar Discord asks, "Hey, what do you look for when you look at the Windows variables? Is there any sensible stuff in the Windows variables, or is it always gunk?" He
In the
saw the
Windows.
Discord. He saw the Discord itself.
Okay. So maybe we just try PHP because that's what was running. Maybe this should work. This would work. I am not 100% sure. I've not tried these things. But there is something interesting that I got to find out, and I patched the machine later on. But because of that one thing, I figured out that this classic vulnerability is not all that easy to exploit sometimes. And that is because here, when we got a shell as Phoebe,
Mm-hmm.
the earlier when I released the box, I had Phoebe's hashes leaked in the box that I patched in afterwards. But with those hashes, you could do evil WinRM, or you could basically WinRM into love as Phoebe.
Yeah.
But but there's this thing that I wanted to show you guys because I really found it super interesting. I didn't know about it until I made the box. Even IPSec didn't know about it. We found out about this together. So after Windows Vista, any remote connection that is PSExec, WMI, etc., or MSI exec in this scenario, or any non-RID 500 local admin accounts that is not, other than the local administrator, anyone else with a non 500 RID returns a token of filtered in Windows. So
Yes.
this filtered token is always medium integrity, even if you are local administrator of the remote machine. So when the user attempts to access a privileged resource, he get access denied. So a lot of users in my Discord, like after I released the box, some people got hands on that hash and they were able to do WinRM into the box. And they were trying to, they found out that these registry keys are set, but then they tried to do MSI exec and it was not working. So at first I was confused why it was not working, but later, no. At that point, I have already figured out why it was not working. So I was like, go research more and you'll find out. But earlier I found out about this. So if you try to do this from WinRM, WinRM have this medium integrity filtered token. So this won't work with WinRM. You have to get a reverse shell as that. So one way to solve it would be that you get on the box. To get those hashes, you can either get it from SQL map or you can get it some other way. I am not 100% sure what other way there could be, but SQL is one of the ways to get it. And after that, you can probably figure out to write a file on the file system on the web server directory because CB has access to write there. Get a reverse shell as not medium as medium integrity, but not filtered. The our reverse shell and the whole thing worked because we did not add a filtered token
Mm-hmm.
when we got a shell because system thought it was just XAMPP running locally and we got the same privileges as XAMPP got, so we did
Yeah.
not get access denied.
Oh,
But the same thing would not work from WinRM because it just won't.
oh, interesting.
Neither would PSExec or WMI or for the fact that any of these privileged resources.
Oh. Hey, Jim has a question.
Yeah.
Jim says, what would you do if Windows Defender was running or it would have blocked MSF Venom? Or rather, the thing generated by MSF Venom?
So what I would do is, first of all, I would not generate a plain simple MSF and MSI MSI file. I would add in encoders here, and after that, if you have not checked out, maybe just go over to ipsec.rocks. So I've learned a lot of things from ipsec. Ipsec does rocks for sure. I'm a fan. Well, so just go and search for Ebola.
No, thank you.
Yeah, so Tally has this thing. I would try this first. This always works. So Ebola is an encoder for your own binary. So you can probably wrap your thing in this, and then you can UPS pack it. So UPS makes it even smaller. So it's Go based packer, so it will pack it and make it even smaller. And after that, you can try running, and it will probably run because
Yeah.
no, Windows Defender is not that smart. And
No.
other than that, what you can try to do is maybe there are some ways to do it manually. Like if you look for MSI exec payload GitHub, there should be something out there. Yeah, Win payloads, undetectable Windows payloads or whatever. You can compile them yourself probably.
Yeah.
There must be source code available for all of these, and you can just compile them yourself with a little bit of changes in them. And that way you would avoid Windows Defender at all, or you would have to keep trying till you fool it. Exactly. That's what I would do. But yeah.
Cool. Richard asks, hey, no, Renee asks, why we were using the proxy again in the exploit code? Well, it did not work, and the proxy we used to figure out why it did not work.
Yeah. So at first, if you okay, I closed Goverster after that, I guess. No. It's still there. So if we go and try to look over here, if you try to send this request in repeater, this is what we got in our proxy. We set our proxy in the exploit, and exploit tried to go to this URL, get love.htb slash voting system slash admin slash index.php. So if we send a request here, we get a 404 because this thing does not exist. Voting system slash admin slash index.php is not a thing. Instead, we directly have admin slash index.php, I think.
Indeed.
Yeah. Right.
So that's what we used to figure out that the URL was wrong.
So now when we tried we tried to debug it by removing this thing because we know that that does not exist for sure. And when we tried to send a request here, we got a 200 OK. And that's how we knew that that's why the request is not working because it's trying to go to a wrong URL instead of a correct one that we wanted to go to.
Yeah.
That's why we use the proxy to debug the exploit. You don't have to do it, but that's how you would, or it would just blindly exit. So if we just get a super new copy of the exploit,
that's fine. That's fine. The reason why we used it was to debug the code, and it's always good to know how to debug the code.
Yeah. Whatever.
There's also normally we have a segment called Gevulde Cookies, so Cookies Choice, in which Cookie hands out some gifts stuff, but she's not here in our YouTube at the moment. But we had some discussion, and we decided to hand out we have three things to hand out. And Jim, Ida, and Ronnie in the chat from the YouTube on our Discord as well. But you are getting some goodies from us for your participation and your questions and your
interactiveness,
being interactive and being cool. So send us a message on Discord and we'll hook you up. So that's what I have done now. Very good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
One more thing that I had is in mind is hack the box. A lot of people message me on Discord asking how to make a box or how to make a vulnerable box. So I will show you how I made this one because it was my own first box. And
can we first circle back to the actual question that Guitar Discord asked? He was wondering in the Windows variables that WinPeace puts out. Is there at any point something useful in that? Do you think?
Yeah, there is. So Windows Firewall was disabled on this box. That's why you were able to see a lot of other services. Like if you go look at our Nmap scan, it had a lot of information. This is not what generally Windows puts out. This is specifically we disabled the window, like I disabled the Windows firewall because for reasons, just to make it simpler.
The variables, the host name, then current username.
Oh,
So
Oh, yeah.
Windows
Yeah.
vars.
Okay. So he was asking about the variables.
Variable, indeed, variables, indeed.
I am having a bit of hard time understanding.
Let's see, Windows variables. There, I've put it in the chat. New comment. Um, no,
Okay.
no, yeah, there we go.
Windows variables.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, there we
Yeah.
go.
So Windows variables, they are important when it comes to when you are in a huge environment. I think you can get a lot of information out of Windows variables in the first place. So if we go back and look at our own, I think I'll have to get a reverse shell again, so I'm not going to run it. But it can give you a lot of useful information, like the languages that the system is using. Let's say that you're on an engagement which is not particularly the company is not in English speaking areas. There you have a Spanish language PC or whatever. The server is using Spanish. Now you exactly know what languages they are using, what the host name is, what the username is, what SM like before they used to use NetBIOS, so you can get to know about that as well. Variables can give you out a lot of information. Let's say you are in an environment where there are 20 computers that you can probably own. You land up in one of them. How would you differentiate all of the different hosts? This comes from the variables itself. This information comes from your local variables that you can enumerate local information about that box, and you can keep it in your notes so you know that
All right.
hey,
And
this is what all there is.
uh, there's some discussion on Discord. Apparently, transferring the MSI from your machine to the victim machine went a little fast. Can we circle back to that part and um,
Show
take
it. Yeah, sure. We can do that. I'll just get a reverse shell real quick. That's 888. I'll run the exploit Python this. So here I'll download that thing. wget is just an alias for IEX in PowerShell. So we download it from PowerShell.
can make the
Although there
font
are
a
like
little bit bigger?
100 different ways to do it. Hmm?
Can you make the font a little bit bigger in this one?
Yes. Oh, sorry.
While some
Yeah.
strange person is walking past my house screaming. So, never mind that. It's all known.
So I did PowerShell -C for command, and wget in PowerShell is alias for IEX or IWR in like yeah IWR is the one.
Yeah.
Then I put in my own IP address, then the port 8000 where I have my web server open. As you can see, by default it runs on port 8000. After that, I put this thing, the name of the file, and then let's call it virus.msi.
Sorry, this is blocked because it's a dangerous file.
Now, if I press enter, RLWrap we should get a request over here in a minute. Here we are just, yeah, so here we got a request. We got a request that 10.10.10.239 239 asked, did I get request to get a reverse shell? And what I don't know if you don't know what IWR does is IWR is just a simple command like wget on Windows or curl.
It's the internet web request.
Yeah, internet web request. So if we do a dir now, we have virus.msi here. Now we can just run it like we did. MSI exec quiet flag is for so it does not show anything on the screen. Qn and as I is for install, Q and I have forgotten what it was for. We can quickly look it up if you want, but yeah. But if we run, it'll run the installer again, and we'll get a shell.
Yeah.
But we already have a shell right now. I exit it if you want, and then as we open up this thing again and run this again, we should get a shell as
Yeah.
who am
Beautiful.
I?
Beautiful.
So this is why. This is why. Did you got it now?
Yeah. Yeah. They're quite active on it. Very good. Very good. Yeah.
Okay.
So you were saying how do you get to actually create a box? It's just
So
from
if
closer, right?
yeah, it's a fun process for sure. So one of the things that I think um, I wanted to show it because a lot of people here are students, and generally students are. When I was a student, I wished there was something like this that existed. So if you go on the new submissions page on Hack the Box actually pays you to make machines now, and it does not used to when I was a part of it. Like I was a student, so I think this is a great opportunity for you to experiment and learn, and also earn a little bit of money or whatever. So how I start is generally I go on Twitter. Like it starts from either Twitter or looking for exploit on something. So if I'm trying to make something related to Windows, I'll go and maybe I'll just go to hack tricks or something related or payload all the things to go and look payload all the things. Let's say payload all the things might have something that is related to Windows or let me show you. Instead, I think I should Google payload all the things. Payload all things. Windows. So it will show me a lot of Windows privilege escalation stuff. So if I'm planning my privilege escalation around, let's say I want to play around with PowerShell. So let's say what it is showing. So it's showing default PowerShell location for PowerShell 1.1 is this. You can probably get a shell like this. Run DLL. If you can run a DLL like this, then you can probably bypass AMZ, and all these things can be taken into consideration. Then there are two scenarios. Either I know about the thing already or I don't know about the thing. If I don't know, then I go research about it. So let's say Hive Nightmare is a new vulnerability. This is the CV that just came out and it is all over Twitter right now. It says that if you can do iCackle SAM and if users have read execute permissions, then you should be able to execute it and get the secret from Hive or basically sand up the whole system. Now this can be a good previous. Now I have a previous in mind. Now I will go and think about how I would do, like let's say this is one of the machines that I was doing earlier. I don't want to show you that.
Too late.
Sorry.
It's safe for all prosperity.
Yeah, now you would enjoy it more if you don't know about it. You'll do it this. Mac is weird; it shows everything. Well,
So I should use better OS, but that's a different story.
so let's say I am going to. First of all, I need a foothold. First of all, I need to decide what the difficulty is. Oh, come on. Difficulty is, let's say I want to make a easy box because easy is the easiest to make. Now I want to also think about how I'm, in what perspective I'm trying to make it. Let's say I make it from, I want something networky, that we exploit network things to get into the box. Or we want something related to web applications, or we want something related to client-side attacks, or something else, something like that. And then after that, I just go look for things that could probably work here. Like, let's say, um, go to exploit DB, search for web applications around here, type web applications or whatever, and then let's look what looks to you like the most coolest thing that you can find. I would just pick up anything that looks cooler to me and what I'm looking for. Do you want them to get an LFI, XSS, RC, or whatever? Do you want them to get a SQL injection from that app? Do you even want them to have an app in the first place that is available on exploit DB? Do you want to code it yourself, or would you want to show like a specific vulnerability? Like, let's say I want to show NoSQL injection, so I would go find for NoSQL what it is, and then I would try to code something around it. I'll read what NoSQL injection is, and then I'll try to code something around it and make an app myself if I want that, or I would go look for that kind of thing over here. I don't think it. I will have to Google. Their search is not all that great. Mm. But yeah, it came up. We have a NoSQL injection cockpit CMS 1 point whatever. So you can probably use that, or you can code it yourself, depending upon how much research you want to put into it, how much how much effort you want to put into it. Then you decide if you want to make what operating system you are targeting. Would it be configuration based vulnerabilities, or would it be exploitable like a vulnerable software into it, or would will be multiple parts to it? Let's say first you get X user, then you get Y user, then finally you get root, or you still look around for more things. So this is how you can probably figure out how you would go around things. I just took example for Windows, but you can probably do the same thing for Linux as well, and try go research and make something out of it.
Very cool.
It's fun and cool. Yeah.
Nice. And the good thing is that if you make a good machine, you get paid. So
Yeah.
that's always fun. That's always fun.
Yep.
Well, Shiraz, thank you very, very much for your walkthrough. It was very inspiring. I get a lot of very positive and happy comments on Discord and in the chat. People loved it, so thank you for that. This was your second visit to us, and I hope in the future we will see you again. That would be awesome.
I will also be like, I also had fun. It's always fun to meet you guys and tell how to own a box or whatever. But yeah,
Very
it's
cool.
super cool. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I will remove your screen from this. And from that, we are closing out the meetup for this time. Next one will be in September. I don't know the date. It's the third Wednesday in September, so that would be somewhere. It's in the Discord. You will figure it out. So yeah, we'll still be online, and given how Corona goes, maybe afterwards we will do a physical session. We'll see.
Sure.
September will be online and will be in the Discord. So thank you all very much. Shiraz, thank you very much. And from that, I will say have a good evening, good time, and I will see you all next meetup.
Okay, and bye bye everyone. If you have any questions, shoot them in Discord. And
Yeah.
bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. And just before I go, September 15th is the date. Now, for real. Bye bye.